Hello and welcome to episode 8, Her Finance Talk. My name is Sue Diamond and I'm your host, and our goal is to help women create a better relationship with their money so you can live your best life. So thanks for joining us and investing in your financial well-being. Her Finance Talk is brought to you by the Her Finance Club, and our mission is to socialize the idea that it's okay for women to talk about money, because knowledge is power. And when that knowledge helps you become more independent, it translates to empowerment. Women empowering women is a mantra we love to live by, and one that has helped to inspire women for decades. Where would we be without each other? So let me start by welcoming our guest today, Kristen Geeslin, who is a consultant, intuitive and mindfulness mentor. It's a bit of a mouthful, right, Kristen? And she's also the founder of Work-Life Synergy. So thank you for taking time to be with us today, Kristen.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So I'm just going to share a little bit about you with our listeners, and then I'll have you expand on that. So Kristen has a master's degree in human resource development, and before founding Work-Life Synergy, worked for a few years in counseling and case management, and then spent more than a decade in higher education as a college administrator. So during these earlier years, she cultivated a deep mindfulness practice that inspired unique contributions and innovative solutions in nationally recognized and award-winning workforce development, education, and mental health organizations for over 30 years. So your model for a good, successful life started with the mind, body, and spirit approach long before it became trendy or popular. And eventually you shared it, and it became, as you had said, I think it was meant to guide you and individuals and organizations in finding vision and balance from an outside objective view. So today you enjoy the beautiful nature on Florida's Gulf Coast, where you make it your home, and you're the mother of a compassionate 25-year-old vegan daughter and a grandmother to a super sweet pit bull. So welcome, Kristen. And I just want to let our audience know today that we are talking about what is intuition and how can women use it during a career transition or a job change. So I'd love to open the conversation up, Kristen, and that was just a very brief overview from what I shared with our listeners. But have you open up the conversation and share how you got where you are today, and a little bit about both your professional and personal life. And I just want to share with the listeners, I met Kristen in 2007 or 8, I think, in Sullivan County in New York, where we did some work together. So she's traveled quite a journey since then. So I'm so excited for our listeners to hear about that.
It has been quite a journey. And I do want to say, I feel so lucky and appreciative that we are collaborating once again, because it was those rural areas are not always so quick to warm up to outsiders. And so I think we found a connection in each other because we were kind of both outsiders. And although we had value in the community and were participating, it wasn't the same as people who had, grown up there and had multi-generation families settled in the area. So I always felt like a soul sisterhood with you and appreciated, and especially because you're from, England, you have a broader view of things. So I always appreciated those things about you.
Thank you.
So I guess the first thing would be early in my life, both science and spirit were kind of on the profile for me. I went to an undergraduate college that was Presbyterian. It had originally been Florida Presbyterian, and then Jack Eckerd gave them $10 million and it became Eckerd College. But the point was, I was taking courses both in hard sciences and learning how to do experimental design and research and really be a critical thinker. At the same time, I was taking courses such as the psychology of consciousness, where I started to, kind of experiment myself in a scientific way with what happened to me when I meditated on a regular basis. So, so both things kind of, and even before that, I was always just very curious as a child and had intuitive things happen to me before I got to college. So one of the things that happened that opened up my mind to the idea of how powerful intuition could be and what an important role it could play is when I was 15 years old, I had a dream, and it was quite a frightening, like a terror type of a night terror dream where someone was trying to rape me in the dream. And I was fighting so hard in the dream that when I woke up from it, I was completely drenched in sweat, just totally, I had been fighting so hard. So then I was kind of naive. I was kind of geeky and spiritual and not very streetwise as a teenager. No siblings. I just didn't get like how to be safe in the world. So a few weeks later, I was waiting at a bus stop because I was going to go to the mall. And somebody offered me a ride. A man offered me a ride. I'm a 15-year-old girl. And as we go down the road, we're going down a major highway. Click, click, click. I start to remember exactly the same scene that I had seen in my dream. So I knew I had to get away. So I started at that point letting this person know that someone was expecting to meet me at the mall because I had their suede jacket and I was going there to return it to them. So they knew someone would be looking for me if I didn't get there. And thank goodness I was able to get out of that vehicle. And I'm absolutely sure that dream saved me from a really horrible and traumatic experience. So I got it that intuition wasn't like a party game. I was like, from very early on, it was clear that intuition can save you from bad things. And so from then on, I was like, okay, this is something real. This is, that was very validating when that actually happened to me personally. So then later, I kind of, my parents told me go to college, which was normal. I was a smart girl, but I also had these intuitive abilities kind of percolating along. And sometimes it was in dreams, and sometimes, back then, I'm not even exactly sure. When I was maybe 20 is the first time I remember it really coming through in a big way, where I had an experience like with mediumship where, somebody from the other side was using me to communicate. I had no training. I'd never sat in a mediumship circle. It was just coming out of the blue. So it was there. And then when I did my first professional job as a counselor, I seemed to be able to help people at a skill level that was beyond what I should have known for the amount of training and experience I had. So, I'm working in a drug and alcohol rehab, and this girl comes out in the middle of the night and she's having a flashback to a, stress experience she had. And I kind of had to get her back into this time space and reorient her and help her feel safe now and process what had happened. And, I was just such a junior. I mean, I really had not the skill set to handle this. And the feedback I got from my supervisors was, you did exactly perfectly the way we would have had you do it. Well, frankly, I do not think that came out of either my training that I'd had in my degree program or the limited amount of experience, but I was guided in some form or fashion at a deeper level to respond.
Wow. So I think, all too often that in terms of intuition, I think in one of our conversations you had mentioned, most women know they have it, but they're not always able to pick up on it or know how to use it. And I know for myself, really, it's been more, I've been accessing it more in the last several years than I have any other part of my life or earlier in my life. And I think, yes, I'm talking all the time and thinking about, oh gosh, this is a message from the universe for me. And just a quick one, like to tell the listeners. So when I say that to my mother, she's she's like the plainclothes nun. And she's like, well, who created the universe? God did. So for her, the message is coming from God, but it can be coming, whether it's from the universe, whether it's coming from your religious beliefs. It's really key to kind of focus into that. So how did you get from being a college administrator 10 years ago to where you are now?
Yeah, at the beginning, it was not my plan, frankly. Okay, I always knew I wanted to have my own business all my life. But, I was in the thick of raising a child, and I've always had a strong commitment to my spiritual practices. So I didn't have a lot of extra bandwidth to be creating my own thing back 10 years ago. And my intention was to stay with that college for at least 3 to 5 years, no less than. Well, my position was dissolved like 10 months after I got there. And so the universe had a different plan for me. I had identified, I'd say, I don't know, a few months into that experience, that it was better for me and healthier for me to bring the gifts and competencies that I had to an agency or to an individual as an outsider rather than an insider. Because a lot of the work that I do has to do with helping them create that vision and restore balance if there's, things that are out of balance. When you have the objective outsider view, you can do that role much more effectively. And so it just got, so I knew back when I got the master's degree in 91 that I wanted to be an organizational consultant, but I hadn't come through the corporate track and I wasn't really sure how that was going to happen. Okay, I didn't know how that was. As it turns out, in the roles that I had, often I would end up doing some piece that was that, strategic planning, team building. Even at the end of the college experience, we were really doing in our department economic development. So those skills and competencies and understandings I gained in that master's program did have an opportunity to express, in my work, maybe not exactly the way I had imagined. So I got laid off from that position and they offered me another job making like 20 grand a year less. And, I'm single head of household and I couldn't say yes to that job. I just couldn't say yes. So then, I really didn't know for a couple of years what I was going to do with myself. I had already started playing around like as an avocation, reading cards. I had people, read cards for me. And I was kind of on a spiritual retreat. Once I was laid off, it was during the 08-09 crash. So the unemployment had been extended. So the universe basically gave me an opportunity to get creative. I started writing poetry, making art, spending time with my child. I was really going into the intuitive side of who I was very deeply. And then when I left that retreat center and moved back to Florida, which is my, my home base, my cottages here, opportunities to start learning more about energetic healing. And, I got a certification in how to read the Voyager Tarot, which as it turned out became like a yoga gym for my intuition. So it was I'm not telling you it was easy because, I had credit card debt that I had really wanted to clear before I went out on my own. I didn't really know how I was going to support myself in those early years. It was 2016. So from like 2013 to 2016, 3 whole years, I really didn't know what was up. And that was unnerving for me. I have 4 planets in Virgo and we like to be grounded. We like to know where we are, what we're doing, and how we're getting it done. So that was a trying time. And I needed some income. I wasn't to the intuitive work yet. I was out of that other universe. Frankly, once I spoke the words, this is not for me, it's like the universe sealed that up permanently. And although I wanted to go back and get some kind of administrative educational gigs, it was not going to happen. I can't tell you how many jobs I applied for. So, that was the universe's way of telling me, no, honey, this is not for you. You need to keep moving forward. And so I worked for Nielsen Media Research for 4.5 years doing the asking people to participate in the TV ratings. which was like the least objectionable way I could come up with at the time to keep myself together, body and soul, financially, while I was taking all these other trainings. So that was not like smooth and groovy. But when I look back and I see sort of, the serendipity, because like I wasn't seeking how to learn how to be a theta healer. And I met somebody in a metaphysical store. They said, hey, do you want to come to this training? They let me come for free. It was like a $400 or $500 value thing. And they just liked me. And I guess they wanted an even number of participants. And then one thing led to the next. I now have 7 certifications in theta healing, one of which is basically training for being a medical medium. So, I can't, it's stunning even to me to see how this all started to happen. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, at 57, what keeps you motivated to continue to learn and grow and create impact?
That goes back to in the beginning when I was, figuring out who I wanted to be. I, for some reason, had it inside of me that I was meant to be of service to others, that was what this life was for. What's the meaning of life? Well, that's what was clear to me. All right. So I needed to find a way to do that. So when I wasn't getting jobs anymore, I said, fine, I'm going to start using my counseling and coaching skills with my intuitive stuff and see if I can get a job doing tarot readings. Well, that was a far cry. Sitting in a metaphysical store was a far cry from being a college administrator, but I got to use those skills and I felt it gave my life importance and meaning. And then as it turned out, I was really, really, really good at it. And I was even impressing people that were senior readers. And yeah, so if I hadn't gotten to there, I never would have found that out.
Right. So I think, that's key again, coming out of COVID, we have, we know it's hit women far more than anybody else. And women today may be returning back to the workforce after, working from home for the last 18 months. They may be looking at having to transition because their employer is not going to be flexible in terms of all the other, tasks that they're juggling. So I think, when we talk about, your intuition is key here in terms of leading you to what, you're passionate about. And so let's talk a little bit about, what is intuition and how can women use it during a career transition or a job change?
Yes, absolutely. So for every sense, for all the 5 senses that you have, there's sort of like a spidey sense or a clair that goes with that. And if you've ever watched anything like The Matrix, there is sort of like an energetic field, okay, that's tying us all together. And the knowledge is out there and the information is just sort of floating around in the matrix. And and we have the ability to sort of tune into that. But in order to do that, first of all, we can't have a lot of mental chatter. You have to calm your mind down. You have to get it, you can't be full of fear, worry. You have to regulate your biochemistry a little bit to relax enough to start to tap into that. So most women have at least 1 or 2 of these clairs that they are using every day. They're just not conscious that they're using it. So the biggest one for me is the claircognizance. That's where I know stuff I have no right to know. Okay, I didn't really learn it. Yes, I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. It just, certain informational types of things come to me just like, it's as if it's magic, but it really isn't. It's sort of like, when you understand the science or technology behind something, it's not magic anymore. And that's sort of how intuition is. Like, if people that were born 500 years ago saw a rocket launch, they would think it was, something supernatural. And that's basically how intuition is. It's a skill set. So, when you say, and you've always heard the thing, women's intuition, or I had a gut feeling. Okay, guys will say that. Guys will say, I had a gut feeling. Okay, so a lot of times we feel it in the gut. There's something in the stomach. So that's what that would be clairsentience, when you feel something in your body. Some people will hear like a voice, but it's not like they're psychotic hearing a voice. Okay. It's they just hear a voice. Like, I know you must have heard stories, and I will just say that almost every human I've ever talked to has had at least one paranormal experience at some point in their life. Okay, whether it was their mother who visited them after she passed, or whether it was they saw a ghost when they were someplace, or whether they felt something cool. So pretty much every human I've ever talked to has touched into the extrasensory experience. They just haven't focused on developing it. So ways you can get into some of that is paying attention to your dreams. Okay, a lot of times your subconscious and dream life will help you tap in. So if you have a dream that seems weird or interesting or off or different, I find by journaling that dream, I will get the metaphor or sort of the meaning that's meant to be conveyed from the dream. I have missed a few, I have to say, but I try to pay attention to that. The early morning, if you're trying to connect with your intuition, or whenever is your quiet time. If you're quiet at night and you're detached from the crazy of life at night, that's when you want to tap in. Meditation is a great vehicle for getting closer to your intuition, because it's the way that we learn how to calm down our minds. So in terms of, like if you're trying to make a decision about whether you should go left, right, or center with a new career, a lot of times the thing that we're meant to do is in the back of our mind. We're just not ready to trust it yet. So I call it like an inkling. Okay, if you have an inkling of what you think you should do, then write those inklings down and start following it. I feel like we were never designed as human beings to have like these elaborate completion plans for things all the time, like corporate America teaches us to do. In the left brain masculine, which we love and honor our structure in our emperor brain, but we're not always going to get that. Okay. I knew when I started doing this intuitive work that I wanted to continue to counsel people. Well, how could I do that? I went and got one simple certification in Voyager Tarot. Okay. This was the door opener. This one certificate, because, I wasn't getting work, and somebody said, oh, well, we're doing Voyager Tarot certification and it costs $45 and it's 3 meetings. I said, sign me up. I mean, I paid the dues to get a master's degree and thousands of dollars. I think I can jump through this hoop to have this certification that helps open a door, to a new universe. And sure enough, that was my first opportunity to work in a metaphysical store, because somebody knew I had training in a particularly interesting depth. How I was drawn to that, that's, part of the great mystery. I can't define how that happened.
But it's just heightening your awareness to it, isn't it? Because I know before I transitioned out to the coaching business from the finance world earlier this year, it was kind of being open to whether it be an email that I might not normally open and say, oh, that's weird, I was just thinking about that. Let me open it and see where that leads me. I mean, right now, I think I'd mentioned to you, I'm like writing a book, and these things will pop up when I'm on the internet. It's like, let me just follow that. And then it's like, oh my God, this is a resource to help me move forward with my goal. And I think it's just been this last year that I've really been focused on things that come or put in my path, that it's like, well, you know what, I need to follow this because there was an inkling back here about this. So let me travel this road. And it's, and so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had to say that.
No, absolutely. I love that you're experimenting with this, because part of my forte is coaching people like you, people who are getting on the bus. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm on this bus. It's fantastic. Where is it going to take me? And then I help you go. I help you really get it really rolling. So I love hearing that this is happening for you. And part of it to me is, when we set a goal, part of the way I feel like the magic works with intuition is that we're striving for something positive. And I think it's like the universe just wants to support all creative, positive forms of expression. It's just like when you see a little sprig of nothing, of a tiny weed get through concrete, Okay, I have to have a belief that the universe has intelligence. If you can get that sprig of nothing through concrete, you can certainly help me get to achieve my goals too. Right. But when we set that intention, and the better we define and can clarify what our vision is, okay, back to having a vision, okay, which is part of what I feel like I'm able to do with individuals and groups and organizations. When you can get that clear vision, then those things start to line up. And so you were able, because you had confidence in probably some left brain things, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. I'm going this way. And then also, I just want to comment that when women get to a certain age, okay, once we go through, we're no longer childbearing years, I feel that the universe knows that we don't have, we're not distracted. Okay, when you're trying to get a kid to 20 years of age or whatever, it takes a lot of energy and focus, and there's a lot of chaos. So you don't necessarily have the chance to always cultivate your intuitive abilities. But once those children are basically viable, then you have the free attention, to explore consciousness and creation in a new way that wasn't really possible when you were committed to both probably professional work and a lot of intense, child raising. Right. And it could happen anytime between, your kid is anywhere from 15 to 25, depending on how, when you had your child. But it frees women. And I feel honestly that women who are 50 and over have so much to contribute to help balance the toxic masculinity that we had been living under for so long. Right. And there is enormous power and value in what we can contribute when we have that shared vision rather than the competitive, outdated cultural thing that we were doing for hundreds of years. That's not serving humanity or the planet. So I do feel there's been a big shift in terms of, the predominant culture, but we still often fall into, even as women, evaluating ourselves or reflecting on what's happening through the patriarchy eyes. So it's really a challenge to bring in as much of the empathetic edge, okay, as you possibly can, because we have already been so enculturated in terms of performance and numbers and quantification and ROI, and we need those things, and I bless those things, but they are not the only things. And I just feel like at large, our whole global culture just went too far that way, and we got out of balance. So now in corporate America, the empathy focus is coming back.
Right. I just want to share with you a friend of mine, Fabienne Jacquet, and she wrote about Venus, the female prescription for innovation. So it's
there we go.
Genius. So
I'm going to have to check that out. Absolutely. And I will say that I feel that in my business life, I was able to solve problems where many other people who seem to have the same basic training failed miserably, because they would not feel in, they would not empathize with what the client or the potential learner or the staff member was going to need in order to achieve the goal that would serve the collective or serve their individual goal. And it's just, to me, it's almost like, I don't know if you know anything about Temple Grandin, but she knows how to think like animals because she's, on the autism spectrum. And, yes. And I know how to think like people. Okay. I know how to be that person. I know how to say, what is that person going through when, like, for instance, creating a curriculum for the farm people at Sullivan County. The farmers had no money, so I didn't want to charge them very much money. The course had to be broad enough that I could have multiple different types of, agricultural people in the course. So I had to put myself in the shoes of those people in order to create something that would be viable. And while that was not a big money maker, it also didn't cost the college much but my time, because I had people donating their time and resources, which was like outside the box from my department. People were like, wow, And ultimately that was a nugget for the college to reinvest and reconsider how they could serve the community. And now they actually have agricultural related programs at that college, which they did not have before I got there. So I was a nugget. Okay. I put a little, little seed, planted some seeds, and then it grew. So, but I was by thinking what's going to serve these people, back to that service concept, what is going to serve these people and the collective. If that person is served, everyone is served.
Yes. Yeah. I could sit and talk about this all day. Unfortunately, my timer's going off in the corner there. But I mean, thank you for, sharing all your knowledge and expertise. And I think, what women can take away today is, as you said, we've been using intuition for centuries to make decisions. So let's make sure we're tapping into our inner sense of knowing, because as you'd mentioned, intuition, it is an intimate and personal process that everyone has the capacity to use. And we can use it to solve problems or make choices, both professionally and personally. And we know we all need help navigating a new path forward at some point in our lives, even if it isn't right now. So, Kristin, I want you to tell our listeners where can they find you?
Okay, so I'm on Facebook. I promise I'm going to have a website soon. I pretty much bootstrapped all of this. There's been no capital investment in my business, so I am actually getting a website in kind. My name is Kristen, Kristin, Geeslin, G like girl, Eeslin. And if you just put MS on the end of that, that's my Facebook page, my pro page. And then my email address is my name, Kristen Geeslin, 2 @gmail.com. My phone number is 727-678-3761. And I just want to quick do the message that I got from the deck. Okay, so I pulled some cards out of the baking bowl of belief, which is what I use when I do intuitive reading cards. And the green path, it says to us that the green path, okay, to get the green path, the way to the green, the money, okay, the green path is to the money and to the sustainable living, all right? And we're going to get that in motion, okay, the atoms are spinning around. We get that in motion, get it moving, reactivated, because we've been a little stalled from the virus, and by going to our night moon wolf. Okay, so this is your intuitive knowing. This is the divine feminine. So we can rebirth, okay, our lives and rebirth our culture, hopefully with some new and improved attitudes and mindsets as we move forward.
Thank you. I love baking bowl of beliefs. I love that. So, oh my God, thank you so much, Kristin, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to kind of take the time to remind everyone Her Finance Talk is brought to you by the Her Finance Club. And our goal is to get 1 million women to start the money conversation with spouse, friends, or colleagues, because knowledge is power. And when that knowledge helps you become more independent, it translates to empowerment. So, Kristin pulled the green card there. So make sure you have a conversation about money. And I just want to say, thank you for taking the time, everybody, out of your busy schedules again to join us. And until our next episode, here's to your financial well-being. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Peace and happy.